On January 24th, 2025, Wang Yi, director of the CCP Central Foreign Affairs Commission and China's foreign minister, held a phone call with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The two sides exchanged views on U.S. China relations and the Taiwan issue. Afterwards, both parties issued statements from their respective offices regarding the conversation. Let's take a look at Mr. Rubio's statement.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke today with China's director of the CCP Central Foreign Affairs Commission and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Secretary Rubio emphasized that the Trump administration will pursue a U.S. PRC relationship that advances U.S. interests and puts the American people first. The Secretary also stressed the United States' commitment to our allies in the region and serious concern over China's coercive actions against Taiwan and in the South China Sea. The Secretary also discussed other issues of bilateral, regional, and global importance with his Chinese counterpart.
But in Wang Yi's statement, he remarked, "Great powers should act like great powers, fulfill their international responsibilities, maintain world peace, and help other nations achieve common development. I hope you how zu wei zhi," literally translated as, conduct yourself properly, so that we can both contribute constructively to the future of the Chinese and American people, as well as to global peace and stability. This Chinese phrase how zu wei zhi is actually a belittling phrase, but on Wang Yi's English language statement, they played it down and translated how zu wei zhi as, I hope you act accordingly. In the Chinese-speaking world, we all know there's only one intention. When someone uses this phrase, how zu wei zhi, it's always a warning signal. Wang Yi's remark to Rubio, telling him to conduct himself properly, has sparked significant debate over the internet and news media. Today, I'd like to talk about how this phrase is commonly used in the Chinese-speaking world, and then delve into the underlying motives behind the CCP's use of this phrasing.
Conduct yourself accordingly, the high-level threat in Chinese diplomacy.
Common usage of this phrase would be in scenarios like when an emperor says to a disgraced official, "I won't kill you, but you better how zu wei zhi." Then this official mysteriously dies the next day. Or when a Chinese mafia boss says to a traitor, "Brother, you better how zu wei zhi." But the next morning, his car tires are slashed, his brakes fail, and there are funeral wreaths at his door. CCP downplayed the word in Wang Yi's English meeting summary. This is the typical use of China's double-dealing tactics in their international affairs. Wang Yi's behave yourself wasn't just diplomatic trash talk. It was part of an elaborate propaganda strategy for domestic consumption, or what we call in the Chinese-speaking world da noi shen, the great domestic propaganda. So how does CCP exploit the translation gap and play both sides? Well, for domestic audiences, this is the opportunity to show the Chinese citizens that China still has the great power prestige. As expected, since the statement in Chinese was published, Chinese state media headlines proudly proclaimed, Wang Yi sternly warns Rubio, "Don't play with fire," a powerful response that shakes the U.S. And the nationalists or the Lil Pinks celebrated on the internet, thinking China had humiliated the U.S. Here is a clip online they show to their Chinese nationalists.
The
keyword today, 好自为之, how to translate it in English. After thinking a lot, finally, everyone came to a conclusion. Because we're going to watch their English version. Make the right choice. You have to make the right decision. Sister Yongping, what do you think? It isn't to show Rubio China's power, is it?
To be honest, many media in mainland China, bloggers, commentators, and some important so-called authorities, all made their own interpretation of this phrase. I think this phrase is very easy to understand in the Chinese community. Because 好自为之, in terms of a diplomatic language, is indeed quite heavy. This word, it has its place that is not out of place. Because it is not a very obvious insult. But the usage of this phrase shows the true beauty of the Chinese culture. The word looks normal, nothing special, but the word is a very heavy usage. And it contains the hint of elders teaching juniors. But, if the translation is not good, can Rubio feel that you are putting pressure on him?
可是呢，你如果说翻译不好啊，他能够感受到你是这样子给他施压或者是重话吗？哈。
You know, the official website of mainland China adopts a more neutral translation method. It is called act accordingly. That is to say, I hope that your actions can be based on a harmonious way. Because I study foreign literature, I pay more attention to this kind of matters. But Haozi wager, to be honest, what is the translation on Google? It is called take care of yourself. Haha, take care of yourself. Take care about yourself. If the translation says take care about yourself, it is still quite heavy. But Google translates it as take care of yourself. Ha ha ha, it becomes a caring phrase. Ha ha. To be honest, Haozi wager is translated by Google as take care of yourself. It is very funny, isn't it? Han Bing laughed so loudly. I tell you who many people are laughing at. It is the Newsweek. Completely copies this translation. So it wrongly translated Wang Yi's warning to Rubio, and it ended up sounding like Wang Yi wants to take care of Rubio. So what kind of interpretation is this? Some Western media interprets it as China gives in. Beijing gives in. Why? Because Beijing hated Rubio. At that time, Beijing thought Rubio was an anti-China hawk. Beijing didn't sanction many American political figures, but Rubio was one of them. So people said if he becomes the Secretary of State, let's not even talk about if Rubio is able to go to mainland China or Beijing. Will he be able to go to Hong Kong or Macau? It is a question mark.
Rubio 呢，他把他是中国大陆对美国的台面政治人物哦，他制裁的人数并不多，可是
The video clip we just saw was how China domestic news programs, or the pro-China news talk shows in Taiwan, promotes the Great China Prestige style message to its citizens and Lil Pink's domestically or Taiwan TV viewers. For international audiences, their illustration would go with something like, it's just a friendly reminder. When foreign media ask about the remark, China downplays it and says, oh, behave yourself is just a friendly suggestion, meaning we hope he makes the right choice. This is like a gangster threatening you. I hope you make it home alive tomorrow, and then telling the police, I was just wishing him good health. This is the usual double-dealing tactics that China plays over and over again with the rest of the world. But the U.S. didn't fall for it this time. Rubio wasn't fazed. He doubled down on criticizing the CCP.
At least the translator that was on the call did not say anything to me that I felt was over the top. But then they put out these games. They like to play these games. They put out these translations where it says one thing in English and then it's translated in a different, they use a different term in Mandarin. So he was warned not to overstep himself. They never said that. And if they had, I would have told them, well, I would say the same to you. Don't overstep either.
This CCP Haozi Weiji episode was like a mafia boss trying to intimidate a cowboy. Well, wrong target, wrong movie. Chinese propaganda relies on domestic self-hypnosis. Every time China plays this double talk game, it relies on translation gaps to appear tough domestically while sounding harmless abroad. This time, Haozi Weiji was meant to be we crush the Americans for Chinese audiences, and we were just offering advice for Western ones. China frequently employs such two-faced tactics in its dealings with other countries on the international stage. However, the frequent use of these methods has not gone unnoticed, and this time, the United States is refusing to dance to China's tune. Related to Secretary Marco Rubio and about CCP's translation stories, let's also touch on another tactic of CCP's self-congratulatory propaganda. In 2020, China's foreign ministry announced sanctions against U.S. Senator Marco Rubio for his strong stance on issues like Hong Kong and Xinjiang. At the time, Rubio was a senator from Florida and well known for his hardline position on China. China's then foreign ministry's then spokesperson, Zhao Lijian, said that Rubio, among others, had behaved badly on Hong Kong and other issues, so China had decided to impose sanctions on them. Fast forward to 2024, Trump appoints Rubio as Secretary of State in his second term. This created an awkward situation for Beijing. After all, they had just sanctioned the person now leading U.S. diplomacy. How do you even engage in diplomacy with someone you supposedly banned? And here's the funniest part. China tried to quietly change Rubio's Chinese name from Lubiao to Lubiao, as if renaming him could erase the past embarrassment. Netizens mocked this move, saying, we sanction Lubiao, not Lubiao, totally different people. At the regular press conference of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, a reporter from the New York Times asked, "Has China changed the Chinese translation of U.S. Secretary of State Rubio? If true, is this change related to his being sanctioned?" The New York Times reporter may have asked this question because a change in the Chinese translation of Secretary Rubio's name could be seen as more than just a linguistic adjustment. It might carry political or symbolic implications. In particular, if the altered translation emerged after Marco Rubio was appointed as the new Secretary of State, it could suggest that China is distancing itself from its previous stance or trying to create a rhetorical loophole. Essentially, the question probes whether the name change is an attempt by China to reframe the situation or reduce diplomatic tensions without formally revisiting its original position. CCP Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning responded, "I have not noticed the situation you mentioned. I think his English name is more important than the Chinese translation." Regarding sanctions, Mao Ning said, "What I can tell you is that China's sanctions target words and deeds that harm China's legitimate interests." Mao Ning didn't respond to the question and gave a straight response. And the reason why change of Marco Rubio's Chinese name remains a mystery.
I have not noticed this change, but I will get to know about it. But more importantly, I think his English name is more important. Sanctions. My colleague yesterday already made clear China's position. I can tell you that Chinese sanctions target deeds and words that harm China's legitimate interests.
Taiwan's pro-CCP media joins the show. In our last episode, we introduced CTI News on YouTube, the media that is said to be CCP-aided. Well, CTI News didn't waste the opportunity to influence the Taiwan-located audience. CTI is dedicated to further splitting Taiwan society for sure, and they are doing a good job. If you missed our introduction of who CTI News is, I will leave the link in the description area of the video. Please be sure to check it out. On one of the CTI News programs where they commented on Wang Yi's Zhu Weizhu statement, in parts of the show, commentator Guo Zhengliang claimed that Rubio won't last more than a year as Secretary of State. He quickly backtracked, saying it was just a quote from another newspaper. This isn't surprising. CTI News is essentially the CCP's propaganda mouthpiece in Taiwan. Allow me to show you this clip from one of their shows that discussed Marco Rubio.
So, Brother Guo, I would like to hear your opinion, because these American hawks go anti-China every day. But Americans should have a consistent point of view. And actually, I remember, Brother Guo, you mentioned you don't expect Rubio to be Secretary of State for long, right?
Politico said 1 year. Politico said it, not me. Ha ha ha.
What about your prediction? Before I let you respond, let me say this first, because in mainland China, the netizens are laughing at Rubio, said CCP changes Chinese from Rubio to Lubia. It changes his first Chinese character in the name, but it means CCP warns him to restart and be a new person, because he is going anti-China every day. What do you have to say, Brother Guo? You said Politico predicts him to keep his job for 1 year. What does it mean?
There's a good index about Rubio. Will mainland China let him go to mainland China? Don't forget he is still in the blacklist. Some people the blacklist has nothing to do with meeting with CCP or visiting mainland China. But he is now the Secretary of State. But CCP can still let him come without taking him off the sanction list. Some people said this. I don't think mainland China will let Rubio to the China easily. So that means we in the CCP are still observing Rubio.
CTI News may claim to be a Taiwanese media outlet, but it is, in reality, a CCP-controlled opinion warfare based inside Taiwan. It has long pushed pro-Beijing narratives, attacked Taiwan's government, and smeared pro-democracy figures. In 2020, Taiwan's media regulators refused to renew its broadcast license due to repeated ethical violations. CTI News then moved online, continuing its role as a CCP proxy media outlet. How CTI News uses aggressive rhetoric to push CCP narratives. On CTI News, hosts and guests frequently use intimidating, mocking, or alarmist language to spread narratives such as, Taiwan is powerless against China. The U.S. is unreliable. China will inevitably unify Taiwan. They also use sarcasm and fear-mongering to erode trust in Taiwan's democracy and push pro-Beijing sentiments. When China faces global setbacks, CTI News downplays the issue, or even flips the script to make the U.S. and its allies look weak instead. For example, when China's economy declines, they say, the U.S. economy is in even bigger trouble. When China's military threatens Taiwan, they say, Taiwan provoked China first. Taiwan is the first line of defense against China's authoritarian expansion, but their tactics won't stop here. I would love to learn from you if the CCP is using similar media infiltration strategies in your country too. Please leave a comment and let me know if you see CCP implementing similar tactics in the country you live in. Lastly, we really appreciate your viewing our program. Your support helps us continue to fight against CCP's infiltration in Taiwan and to defend Taiwan's democracy status from being weakened by the Trojan horse. And please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and see you in the next video.